Thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. I know it's getting a little late in the day. I was in the hallway earlier and someone said, you know, they were saving the best for last. And Bilal and I said, wow, we're really flattered. And they said, well, you're not last. I was like, oh. But again, thanks for being with us. We're going to talk to you today a little bit about APM. We're also going to talk about managed services, what that means, give you a few examples of that. So some of the challenges we see selling APM into the industries that we serve is customers still dealing with isolated silos of data in different disparate systems. They still have that siloed data as a challenge that they're dealing with. There's surprise events that happen, which makes it a challenge to see one holistic view of what might have happened in that event, during that event. And so what that results in is reactive decisions that are based on individual pieces of information or pieces of data that they look at and have to pull that together into one story. So with those industry challenges, there's an advantage that can come from having a solution that allows you to see that disparate data in one system that helps you to focus on a predictive analysis of that data and information and allows you to make proactive decisions instead of a reactive decision with little time. What we've seen is a reactive decision in a lot of cases ends up in a different result as opposed to taking a proactive approach. So this is what APM brings to the equation. It allows you to help integrate your data into one place. It gives you the tools that you need to make predictive analysis of that data and then drive the right predictive decision. So that's just a couple of things that we were just talking about that APM brings to an equation. But there's a lot of different benefits that come from that. You have the ability to look at operational risk reduction, increasing uptime, improved efficiency, cost reduction, maintenance performance, looking at different types of scheduling and inventory management. A lot of these different things are part of an APM solution, and you can see all of the data from the different systems in one place. So again, that's the benefit of having GE Vernova's Asset Performance Management solution. Now, this again is some information collected from our customers. This is not, theoretical stories or what could happen if you had APM. This is real information and feedback from our customers. A couple of examples here. Two of these go together in my mind very nicely. Customers have recognized 7 to 13% reduction in planned maintenance, right? In parallel, there's a reduction in 10 to 20% reduction in unplanned maintenance. That's a real benefit. These are tangible benefits that customers have recognized and reported. There's also asset replacements that get postponed annually, 30%, right? So instead of you're getting longer productivity from your assets. Again, study information directly from our customer, not a theoretical example. Now, let's talk a little more about APM. What is APM? APM is an application, a GE Vernova application. And what we're going to focus on today, there's multiple different modules within APM. And you could spend an enormous amount of time. We have people that have spent their career in just one of these, working within one of these modules. Today we're going to focus on the APM SmartSignal module, and we're going to look at what benefits it brings to your organization, and what services that we have that goes along with that module. Again, when you look here, we're not going to dig into, but know that APM strategy, health, reliability are other modules that are available to you through our Asset Performance Management solution. But we're going to talk today about APM SmartSignal. So And then, as I mentioned, we're going to give you some examples, but we're also going to talk about what are the managed services that go along with it. I want to take a second just to go back. My name is Marcus Pugh. I'm the Industrial Managed Services Leader. I'm based in Florida. I've been with the GE family of businesses for 20 years. This year will be my 20-year anniversary. I also want to introduce Bilal Syed Bukhari, one of our subject matter experts and customer reliability managers. Bilal works directly with our customers to help deliver the services that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So again, our managed services organization that we're talking about here has been in existence for the past 15 years, collectively over 800 years of experience between the combined team. And you can see the different industries that we support between oil and gas, power generation, manufacturing, metals mining, aviation. You know, we do provide our services with APM to these different industries. I'd like to call your attention to another interesting point here. We currently monitor over 7,000 assets using APM. And then we've transitioned over 11,000 assets. And what that means is we've transitioned 11,000 assets that we were monitoring to the customer's team, and they're monitoring it with their M&D or their own monitoring center at this point. So again, managed services, the team that Rahul mentioned, we're here to be the journey partner with you to help you on your journey of adopting this solution within your organization, or we'll continue to utilize the solution on your behalf. So a couple of things to share with you here, collectively across all of our customers. You know, we've recognized in the time period that I mentioned over 1.6 billion in potential risk avoided, right? And that's a combination of both production and mechanical risk avoided as we've looked at over our history. You know, on average, the ROI from purchasing managed services to go along with this is 3.4 months. So based on the catches that you see and the risk avoided, that's the ROI that we typically expect for our customers. And then you can see up to $60 million potential catch, right? Now, you know, I wouldn't say every one of them are 60 million, but we have seen them up to 60 million. So it could be from a few $100s on a particular catch up to 60 million that we've seen and validated with different customers. So here, again, I'd like to pause for a minute. Let me, again, thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Bilal, ask you to come over and share a couple of stories around our predictive analytics solution.
Thanks a lot, Marcus. All right, so thank you. So we talked about who we are, what is M&D Plus Managed Services, and that's where we come in. We are the team. Think of your team sitting remotely in a location, but working for the same objectives as yourselves. Looking at your asset data and identifying risk for you and notifying you when you need to take action. Over the last day and a half, I think all of us have seen this PF curve shown many times. The simple objective of showing this again and again is we are trying to move from a reactive, corrective, break-fix approach to a more precision or a proactive approach using SmartSignal. And that's what the core objective of having SmartSignal is. Now, moving ahead, a little bit about refreshing the technology for those people in the room who are not very familiar. The SmartSignal analytics use multivariable data from a number of tags and correlate them to generate estimates for each and every data vector that comes in. It then compares the actual value from that sensor against the model estimate, and wherever they are outside a dynamic band, it identifies that as an anomaly and then sees what other tags are going outside that dynamic band, correlate to potential failure modes, and highlight that as an alert or a risk for the analyst to pick up. And that's where the monitoring teams come in. When you go for the APM solution from GE Vernova, a key differentiator that we don't talk about a lot, it's not an empty shell. It's not a software-only solution you are buying, you are implementing. It comes with a very comprehensive and a very powerful engineering content pre-built into it, which is what we call the blueprints. You as a customer do not need to create analytics from the scratch. GE has invested years and years of time and effort in developing that engineering content in line with the latest industry standards, with all the latest sensorization that is available. So you, as our customers, get the advantage of having the best-in-class failure mode coverage right away. You can obviously enhance, add to those analytics. That is very much a capability within APM. But what comes along with SmartSignal is the extensive portfolio of over 350 different asset type blueprints that we have, covering from anything from aeroderivative engines to boilers to distillation columns, you name it, and we have a blueprint with analytics models already available with it, with us. So you get the value. Now, where is the value? One, the value is you don't need to really recreate the wheel, which otherwise would take anybody who in the room has done an FMEA exercise. Even with libraries, it takes weeks and months to develop an FMEA for an asset, and then take defined failure codes. This is all pre-built in our blueprints. So that's the value you get. And then obviously you can add on to that. Now, and I really wanted to highlight this point because many times it is a mystery. What is a blueprint? We are talking about the digital twin, something very exotic, right? Seems very, I coming from the field, always used to be very afraid of technology. What all this AI and ML, what does it mean? But when I started looking at the blueprints, I started realizing this is the language of converting what we interact as operators, asset owners on a day-on-day basis to a digital platform. So an asset, a physical asset, which we all as asset owners operate, we are more intimately familiar with a layout of that asset, a PFD, a PNID, an instrument diagram. That as maintenance engineers, as operation engineers, as maintenance supervisors, technicians, we are more familiar with. The blueprint is exactly that. It divides an asset into different system or components of which the asset is comprised of, and it captures all and it consolidates all relevant sensors that can be leveraged or pulled together to identify specific failure conditions in that specific system. We call them models. So, for example, a lube oil system is one specific model within a blueprint. The mechanical failure modes are covered under the mechanical model. So, for example, here what you see is, this is the mechanical model for a simple boiler feed water pump. So people who are there out in the field now can easily recognize this. You have worked on this equipment thousands of times. A digital twin blueprint is exactly a digital representation of the same asset. This is GE's blueprint that is readily available. We know what are all the different tags, possible tags or instruments that can be there on this type of an asset, which we can readily map. And these then feed into the relevant diagnostics that generate for that asset. Another very, very important thing. So this is for a very simple asset, a boiler feed water pump. Look at all the different models. It has a performance, mechanical, driver model, a coupling, two different coupling models, and a lube oil model. Simple asset, but broken down in very systematically into different sections, systems, where you can then identify what exact failure mode is happening over there. You also are able to identify what instruments are required. Now, something very interesting I'll tell you. Some customers, having very old assets, are using the information that is available in our blueprints to carry out a gap assessment. with sensorization technology, now very convenient and more economical. It's easier to get sensors on low instrumented but critical assets, which you couldn't previously do. And our blueprints help you do that. One more important thing, these blueprints are never static. From the day these were launched, they are continuously updated with the latest information that we gain based on industry standards, based on our own operating experience, based on customer feedback. So if you just notice, the creation date for this blueprint was 2020. It has gone through 5 different revisions, and the last revision happening in March 2024. And this is all available to you. This is all accessible to you. Once you have the APM solution, all of this, so it is no more a black box. All of this information is available to you. All right. Now, final bit, and again, the presentation goes away. So here are some of the lessons. So we have been in the industry for, we have been providing services for the last 15 plus years. We are a partner to the customers. We don't claim we know more than the customers. The customers always know more intimately their assets, how they function, what is their failure background. But we have certain learnings. And one of the biggest learnings is, so we are just sharing 3 of the biggest learnings that we have. The first one is, trust the green line. When we say trust the green line, what does it mean? So as an ex-customer myself, many years down the field, my job was spending 8 or 10 hours in an engine room and taking measurements. And my boss, very nice gentleman, but not so nice at times, would not be happy unless I gave him those 12 sheets at the end of my shift. Now, whatever he did with those sheets, I never could understand after 2 years in that role. But he wanted that data. But when I came here, when I started doing this 10 years ago, I realized, initially I was also very skeptical. What is this green line telling me? But the green line really tells the story. It takes a while for customers to trust and move away from the experiential, knowledge-based or experience-based approach on taking maintenance or operation action. But that's exactly what the green line does for you. And customers who do trust the green line are able to, gain a lot of benefit, tremendous benefits. Now, what is this? It's a very simple thing. Oil and gas upstream customer, crude oil export pump, came back from an outage, bearing temperature, stepped up roughly about 20 degrees. Still nowhere near alarms. So we used to monitor 14, we monitor 14 different offshore platforms for this customer. Immediately raised a case, sent it to the customer, said, well, have a look. Looks like your bearing temperatures are actually rising. Vibrations are also shifting. Looks like bearing might have started to fail. Look at the lube oil. Look at bearing temperature if there is a cooler. Check all of that. The customer said yes. They did a thermograph. Very quick, very easy. And they said yes, that's the non-drive and bearing. And yes, it is running at 80 degrees centigrade. It's higher actually even what the instrument was telling. The drive and bearing is still at 51. Great. What? Now, very simple, right? Simple pump, a bearing is failing, system has detected, still not hit alarm. Great. But here comes the operating context. This platform is 200 miles offshore. They don't carry replacement spares for a lot of things. On an offshore platform, they carry the very, very absolute basic inventory that they require. Anything else has to be ordered from onshore and brought on. So they had 2 into 100% of these pumps, but they are both critical. So they said, well, we're going to order the bearing, get it, plan for the seal, and below is what the feedback was. And this was great, right? because it helped. It was a simple issue, detected well in time. Customer was able to say, guys, this is amazing. And we had tons of examples. I'll tell some more later on as well. So how did we do that? We trusted the green line. The customer trusted the green line. And that's where they were able to do it. Another oil and gas example. This is gas compressor, multi-casing gas compressor, dry gas seal. Now what was happening here was, all of a sudden, a case seal control, it's a control valve positioner output. It came back from an outage and it started hunting, roughly about 10%, 10 to 15%. And we could see the dry gas seal outlet pressures also moving. Now, for those of you who are from the oil and gas industry, so the dry gas seals contain the process gas within the casing. A leakage of that process gas means you cannot run the equipment. Now, this was only a 10% hunting. No alarm is being hit as of now. We picked it up. Within the team, we had people, including myself, who have converted compressors from conventional wet oil seals to dry gas seals over 40 different units. And we knew this is a failure mode in our blueprint, which is called a seal chatter, seal phase chatter. The dry gas seal ran a thin cushion of gas between in microns. And when this starts to happen, that cushion starts to variate. And then the seal faces clash, and then they ultimately get damaged. Highlighted it, told the customer, guys, your pressure control, back pressure control valve has the problem. Either it is sticking or it is going out of tune. Take it down and fix it, because you have an imminent seal failure on your hand if you won't fix it. The seal failure has not happened. Remember, seal is still healthy, but it's wearing now. They said, well, we can't take it down, Bilal. We have production targets. Okay, we will monitor it for you. Write a work order. If you had an emergency trip, fix it. A couple of months down the road, they had an emergency trip. They tuned the valve and back where they were. They wanted it to be. Excellent. No failure, proactive action, and something which would never have been detected. Only when the seal failed would the alarm come. Second lesson, quantifying risk always helps decision making. All right, so within APM, we have something which we call a risk avoidance calculator or a cost benefit calculator. When you have a case where you need to sometimes make a decision, either at the start or towards the end, you can quantify that risk into tangible dollar values. That's what the senior big guys want, right? What is the value of this risk? That's sometimes maybe us people, the front line, we don't really understand, but that's important. So we have the ability to calculate the production risk based on the financial impact of that asset going down, multiplied by the probability of that event causing that production impact. Similarly, we are able to calculate the mechanical risk. Both of these are available within APM. Here is an aeroderivative gas turbine somewhere in Europe, running fine, until one day we noted a 6 to 7 PSI drop in one of the 8-stage sprint air pressure line, along with the 1.5 to 2 megawatt drop in power. We saw some other changes happening as well. We notified, the IMS team was looking at it together with our M&D folks. We notified the customer, well, you probably have either a leakage on the 8-stage bleed or your VBVs, the variable bleed valves on this unit. There is a passing on them. The customer, this doesn't trip the unit, by the way, not in this situation. So customer was a bit, undecisive whether they should take it down, whether they should not. And we said, hey, that's fine. Let's do a risk avoidance calculation and see what is the loss that you will encounter. They did a risk avoidance calculation, and they said, running like this, the loss on power alone would be roughly about, until their next planned outage, would cost them over $200,000 in revenue. Now that does make things very clearer, right? Decision making is much. Would your boss really want you to lose $200,000 when you have a standby unit available and not take this down for a day and a half and fix this? I think the answer in most cases would be no, go ahead and do that. And that's exactly what they did. They took a day and a half outage, quickly checked, they didn't find any leakages on the 8-stage read line, but they did find that one of the VBB linkages, they have multiple VBB doors over there, had sheared off. And they said, okay, they fixed it, came back online, 1.5 days, you can see immediately pressure recovering and power backup. So the lesson here is, many a times the risk is identified such at an early stage where you actually need to, you perhaps by experience say, well, it's okay, the unit can run. You're more focused on availability. You're not focused on the financial risk that it entails. So this helps as well to know. Last thing, and the most important bit, failure elimination is a team sport. It's not about us, it's not about, everybody has to work together to get this. You have an amazing software, yes, but the people element who drive this and collaborate effectively is what brings the winning formula. And if the presentation allows me to continue, so the example that I had here is, so this is something very interesting, and I promise this will be the last 3 slides I will show, no more. So this is an oil and gas customer, same offshore platforms, 14 platforms we monitor. This was a yearly review we do with our customers. This is the 5 years data we collect and present. 5 years, over 1,000 cases reported. This is something which we monitor continuously. The actionability. What is under an awaiting status where, Mr. Customer, you have to take some action. We provide a governance model to monitor that. What is closed as action? Customer has decided on taking an action, either a maintenance or an operation action, and done that. What is not action? Okay, this was something which was perhaps due to an overhaul or a replacement. So we can see by this metric that, yes, there is a good amount, over 52% of those cases were action, which is great, by the way, in industry standard. What were the cases type? What was being reported? So over 64% were equipment issues. 27% were instrumentation related issues. And then the rest were performance and other related issues. We broke it down, looked at the data, analyzed the data, whatever was action. So let's leave the unactioned out. There is a story there as well, but for the purposes of this discussion, let's look at what was actioned. Roughly about 60% was equipment issues, about 30% was instrumentation issues, and the rest were performance and other issues. We were able to dissect that. Using SmartSignal, they were able to avoid all of this. We did, through SmartSignal, this feature was not available earlier, but now it is available. This visualization feature is available within SmartSignal, where you can do this analysis on a click of a button through advanced visualization. We were able to identify which platforms had the most equipment issues and had the most reliability challenges. And this is a great customer, and they would use this information to build into their engineering improvement plan for the next 5 years, every year. What was the result? So this is a 10-year risk avoidance, customer validated risk avoidance trend from 2013 to 2023. You can see starting at $1 million a year, over a cumulative of over $38 million, validated by them. They just use our model. This is tremendous. This shows that, consistently, and they are big believers, and customers do become. So how did they win? So it was a team sport. We did our part, they did our part, and together we were able to actualize this. I will pause over here, and I think I will close my discussion here. So these are our three biggest lessons that we heard. We talked about the foundations, what we talked about industry managed services. Thank you for being a very attentive audience, and thank you very, very much, and we will
Thank you.
call it a day.